Hey guys, it's Kim here and welcome back to Top 5 Games of 2015. I am joined today by the incredibly lovely Zoey. How you doing, Zoey?
Hi, I'm good. Hi, hey, what's up? Hi.
Right, should we get to this? Should we just smash right into
Let's
it?
just, straight in. Boom, number 5.
Okay, so what is your number 5 game of 2015?
I don't know.
Oh.
I've got like 4. I've got a top 4, which I'm pretty concrete on, and then there was a whole bunch of other games that came out this year that all had really good stuff, but didn't quite feel like Game of the Year-y, if that makes sense.
Well, if you were to like pull one out of that kind of cluster of games there, off the top of your head, what sticks out for you?
Her Story.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a very good one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
yeah, but not quite your Game of the Year though, not quite your top 5. So why is that?
Well, I mean, it has basically a lot of the stuff in my top 5 are all about stories, the stories in these games and how they present those stories and how amazing it is. And Her Story does that as well. Like, it has a very, very unique way of presenting the story. I just didn't really put it into my top 5 because it only took me like an hour, and I don't know, I feel like that would kind of be cheating other games.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, but I thought it was a really powerful game. Like, it just, I really like the way it's executed, because I think it was one of those games where it could have been terrible.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of the mechanic of typing words in and stuff like that, it could have been absolutely terrible. But yeah, I think that the developer pulled it off. Sam Barlow, I think it is.
Yeah.
Really, really well. Okay, well, we'll move away from that since it's not really.
I mean,
in the top
like,
5.
I want to say, like, it was a really good way of presenting the story. It felt natural. Like, I could just go into, like, you start off and the keyword is like murder, and then you watch the clips and you're like, she said a name there, let's look up that name. And then you're like, she said something about a workplace, let's look at that. And slowly you piece it all together, and it does it really fluidly and awesomely. And that was just really clever. It was just a good way of doing a story, basically.
Yeah, I really like that system too. Okay, so that's your number 5. So what's in at 4?
Fallout 4 at number 4.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Did you put it there just because it has a 4 and then
kind
maybe
of.
like 4 is 4 like
kind
4?
of.
Yeah.
Plus the 3 above it, I liked more. So that also helps.
Okay, so what is it about Fallout 4 that makes it actually number 4?
Okay, if it would be number 2. Okay, I'm going to say a lot of negative things, which will make it sound like I hate the game. But basically, if these things weren't in it, it would be up at number 2 or even number 1.
And before we go on, no spoilers. Okay, we have a no spoiler policy on this.
That's going to be hard for my top 1, but I'll do my best.
Okay.
But for this one, basically, Fallout 4 did a lot of new things. A lot of cool new things were introduced. Like, they have the whole settlement building thing. That's amazing, doing Minecraft in Fallout 4. Like, I spent literally half of my hours played have been building my settlement in the first town. Really, really good. I've set up like lighting system, power systems. I have spotlights shining on down on the path. I've got a little gate where the traders can come through. It's beautiful. I love it.
Wow. Okay.
But I think they really, really made a mistake by having a voiced protagonist.
Okay.
I think that has limited the game so much compared to the previous, like Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. Fallout 3 and New Vegas had so many conversation options, so many different ways you could go through a conversation, solve quests, like depending on your stats, like charisma and intelligence, you could do different things. And there's none of that in Fallout 4. Because it's a voice protagonist, they've just recorded 4 lines for each conversation, and that's it. There's no leniency, there's no room for role-playing and stuff like that. So that kind of ruins it.
That's always the difficult thing, isn't it? Like, if you give a silent protagonist a voice, you can't project your own voice onto them. But I don't know about the charisma option, because I put all my points into charisma pretty much from the off, and to my mind, it seems to have opened a lot of doors for me, like changed a lot of options and stuff like that. So
the charisma options in Fallout 4 are all now based on RNG for no reason whatsoever. So even if you have high charisma, you can still fail it, which is just weird.
Yeah, that is true.
And also, there is no way to be evil. Literally no way to be evil. You can do all these options where you're like, oh yeah, well, you smell a poo, but there's nothing that's actually evil. Like, there's nothing where you can actually go down a different path. You're still stuck on this linear thing.
Yeah, you can be a bit of an asshole, but you can't, like, drop a bomb on an entire
Yeah, you can't change the story. They basically set up this story, which as well, like, no spoilers for the story, but the story has made it so you have to play as a straight character as well, which for me having played through New Vegas, which has had so many options for not doing that, like, you know, there's different perks for different sexual orientations and things like that. That was amazing. And then it felt like they took a step back. And again, with the voice protagonist, it felt like they took a step back just so they could tell this one particular story. And I don't know if that worked. That didn't really work with me. I felt like I had less freedom than the previous games.
I think I completely agree with you that is always the danger as well. It's like, I've given it a voice and now you have to be that voice. And voice is so key to kind of a character, I think, as well. And so it's not the voice. If it's not the voice you kind of necessarily like, then you're just a bit like, well, this voice is really annoying.
Yeah. I mean, if this was just like, you know, some new random game out of nowhere and it was like this, the game would be great. And it's still great, but because I've seen what it was before, it genuinely, it feels like they've taken a step back, and that it kind of annoys me, really, because I love Fallout, and to see it go backwards on some things is just, I don't like it. But like, I don't want to just say all negatives, because it is a really good game. It is a really, that's why it's in my top 4. Like, that's why it's in at number 4, because it's still Fallout. It still has a lot of things that make Fallout great. It's just never going to quite reach the same mark as New Vegas did for me.
That's a fair enough criticism, I think. But yeah, obviously, you know, you like it enough that it is in at number 4. So moving on from number 4, what is in at number 3?
Tales from the Borderlands.
Ooh.
Yeah. The Telltale game based on the Borderlands universe was awesome. Again, like Her Story, it just had a unique way of telling the story that hasn't been done in other games, as far as I know. So you play as, like, unlike the other Telltale games, you play as 2 separate characters that are going down the same path, and it's hard to avoid spoilers with all these story-based games, but basically, like, you tell the story in past tense.
Yeah.
So you have these 2 characters saying what happened, but obviously they're both kind of a little bit selfish and kind of big themselves up a bit more than the other person.
Yeah.
So depending on who you're playing, there's all these moments where it's like a bit of an unreliable narrator, and then the other person corrects them, and it's just really funny and really cool way of doing it.
Okay.
Because you're not... It's kind of like you're doing your own story, but these people are telling you what the story actually is, and it's a good way of pushing you down the right path while you're still feeling like you have control.
Yeah. But so did you play Borderlands, like the FPS, beforehand, or is this kind of like your first entry into it? I mean, so you have played it before.
This is a really good point as well. Like Borderlands 1, Borderlands 2, Borderlands pre-sequel. I have tried really freaking hard to get into those. I love the universe. I love the characters. I love the idea of it. But the actual gameplay, the FPS grinding to get all these weapons and stuff, it just kind of... It killed it for me. But then Tales from the Borderlands comes along, and it's just story. It's just, hey, here's some characters from Borderlands. You love that. Just look at all this. And it's great. So
it's perfect for you,
yeah. It was really good.
Okay, so moving swiftly on to number 2. What is your number 2 game of 2015?
A little game that you might know called Rocket League.
So why is the story so powerful in this for you?
Yeah, okay, this is the only exception in my top 5 of like games that have stories. But still, like, there is still a story, if you will. Let's just roll with this. A story of my progression in the game of Rocket League. So launch day, like, we all start playing it. We're all kind of noobs. And again, that's a really good thing as well. So many of us on like Vent and Discord that we all play together on. We all got it. We all played together. We had like 4v4s going on constantly.
I remember,
It was great. And we were all noobs, like I said at the beginning. But we all felt still cool, if that makes sense. We all, like, when we were getting goals and stuff, and like it showed the replay of the goal, it was like, yeah, wow, you're awesome. That was great. But then,
I did a football.
Yeah, I did a goal. I did a touchdown or whatever. But then, like, you have that progression where, because we all played together, we all kind of got better together. And we all, suddenly, like, one of us was doing, like, aerial goals, and we were like, whoa, how did you do that? And then, like, other people started figuring out, and, like, the games just evolved into just so much more. And then it became, like, an esport. And then they did, like, tournaments of it and stuff. And you could see all these players that were, like, just mind-blowing in what they did. Like, one guy taking on 3 other people and winning because he was just that good. Like, and seeing all these skills and stuff, it just, they literally invented an esport out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, it was just fantastic. It's fantastic to watch, it's fantastic to play, it's just really fun. And the DLC they do for it, like all the new modes and stuff, they just like, hey, if everyone has access to all this stuff, then we do it for free. Like, you don't have to buy it. But if it's just cosmetics for cars or whatever, then, you know, just give us a couple quid. And it's just a great way of doing the DLC.
Yeah, I think I was saying to Xylus, because he had it in at number 3, I believe. And I think what is really great is just seeing this indie game coming out of nowhere and turning into this huge thing. And the devs are still kind of really nice and cool and just like, oh my God, like, you know, you just want them to do really well because they're so supportive of you as a gamer playing their game, if that makes sense.
And they support the community. Like every patch they release like a new flag from like Reddit or some other forum or just some community that plays the game. They're like, oh, you guys like us, but we like you. Here's a flag. And it's just like they obviously care about the people that play it, and it's just really cool. It's just so, and it's literally it's just so cool. It's just such a cool game. Like everything you do in it just. It's cool.
Definitely. I think I noticed as well, because obviously we were all playing it, but unfortunately because things got really busy for me, I stopped kind of playing it off screen, as it were. And then I remember playing a game with you guys and I was like, oh my God, what happened to you all? You were just so much better. And like you say, doing aerial flips and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can really see people progress through it and getting better and better and better, which is like really awesome to watch, I think.
And they've also kind of hinted at this, like, to go back to the story thing, there is, like, there's just this weird kind of uncertainty uncertainty about how this will happen. Like, why are cars fighting against each other, and why are there just balloons in the audience, and what happened to all the people, and are cars in control of this planet? I don't know. Yeah.
So you're saying it's another Splatoon where it's like, yeah, the apocalypse happened and we're all squids out.
Yeah. Oh, Splatoon should probably be like a kind of top 6, just so you guys know.
Just
like,
on the fringe. Yeah.
Didn't quite make it, but still really good.
I get that. Okay, we're going to move on to number 1 now, because you said to me beforehand, I need to talk about this game.
Yes, we're going to... Okay, I hope you guys have got like loads of chocolate milk. You're all sitting comfortably, because this is going to take 5 hours.
We'll cut it down to like 10 minutes. It's fine.
That's
It's fine.
No one will notice.
Take it away. Zoe, what is your number 1 game of 2015?
It is Undertale.
I knew it was going to be Undertale.
How did you know?
I knew it. Because I know you, Zoe. Go on then. Take it away.
I don't know where to start. Everything about this game... It's perfection. I'm going to say perfection. I've never played something that has had so much attention to detail on every single little tiny thing and person and object that you interact with. The story is just so good, and the characters are just so real and lifelike, even though they're just 2D pixels, like literally almost 8-bit style designs on some of them, and it's just, but I still know them, I still love them, all of them, they're all great. And the music, the soundtrack, I've had that on loop since I finished playing it. And I need to take a drink because I'm talking way too much about this really rapidly. Hold on.
Okay, while you take a drink, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I am relatively new to Undertale. I only actually clocked it a couple of weeks ago, where like someone was whinging about it and complaining about it. And I looked at it and I thought, actually, yeah, this looks like something I'd really love to play. But it looks kind of basic. Like I'm not really sure kind of why everyone is going super crazy for this. So that's my devil's advocate.
Okay.
See, so change my mind.
I agree with you in that the first impression of the game, it just looks like, you know, any other like indie 8-bit RPG, whatever they're going for there. Don't judge a book by its cover is what I would say, because the first hour I played of it, hated it. I found it boring. Ridley and Mavs were telling me to play it, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm just kind of going against these frogs here, and I mean, this is fun, I guess, but I don't really care. And then 2 weeks later, they were like, dude, you haven't finished it yet? You've got to finish it. And so they kind of pushed me into it. And literally, if I had just kept playing for like 10 more minutes after I stopped, the whole world just opened up to me, and I met these 2 great characters. I don't know how much of spoilery I can be, but like...
I think you can mention the 2 characters that you meet, yeah.
Okay, Sans and Papyrus, the skeleton brothers. You meet them pretty early on in the game. And after that moment, and meeting all the other characters after that, like the whole world just clicked together. The whole world just... There's so much detail and love and attention to every single little thing that you see in the world. Seriously, I could spend 2 hours talking about each and every single enemy and character that you face. It's so good.
One thing I noticed was that there was a little bit of kind of focus on neutrality, in that you could be completely neutral and not kill anyone or anything, which, you know, is pretty unusual in an RPG. So
it's not just that.
Yeah.
There's 3 different ways you can play it. So you can be It's called a genocide run. You can kill everything. You can go straight down into those caves and just murder everything.
Sure.
You can go straight down into those caves, and the frog tells you about fighting at the start, and so you're like, okay, yeah, I'll stab a bit. Oh, but I kind of like that person, so I'll let those live, and that's kind of like neutral. Or you can be pacifist and figure out a way to spare everybody and keep everyone alive and happy.
Oh wow, okay.
And each one of those paths changes the game so much. Like, because my first playthrough I did pacifist, the boss fights were different. Like, because these bosses were trying to kill me, and I was trying to calm them down and be like, whoa, I'm your friend. There's so many... every fight when you're on pacifist kind of turns more into a puzzle game, and you're trying to solve how to befriend them and how to get them to stop hurting you. Whereas on genocide, like, you're trying to kill everybody, and the fights turn into something a bit more standard to an RPG.
Yeah. Okay, so the game does actually cater for a pacifist stance, because sometimes you see these games where they're like, oh my god, there's multiple options and multiple playstyles, you can be super evil or super good, and then when you actually do the different playstyles, there isn't really that much difference.
I mean, again, attention to detail. I've done the pacifist ending, that was the first one I did. If I now go and do the genocide ending and murder everybody, some people in that playthrough will kind of, it's not like they remember me or know me, but they kind of get this feeling that they've seen me before.
Yeah.
And they kind of change slightly in what they say and what they do.
Okay.
So it affects, like, even though I reset the game and started a new playthrough, they still remember what I did. It's crazy. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And, like, again, if I'm suddenly killing everybody, if I'm, like, killing this skeleton guy's brother, he gets freaking angry at me. And, like, whereas in the first playthrough, if I just befriended them, then everything's fine. Like, it's so hard to avoid the spoilers. But basically, like, if you go down the fight path, there are more bosses and more things for you to fight. If you go down the peaceful path, there's more puzzles and more, like, intrigue and backstory for you to find out.
Yeah. Okay, well that's good that it actually supports you making a different decision, because I must admit I do get fed up with games that are like, yeah, we got so many options, and it's like, well, actually no, it's only a vague kind of shit. Like you said about Fallout 4 earlier, it's kind of only vaguely a bit different, and nothing you kind of unlocked really matters or anything like that.
Yeah, Fallout 4, you're always going to have, like, the same final quest to do, like, whereas in this, the final, again, it's so hard to avoid spoilers, but, like, the final bosses, plural, are different. And it basically, just trust me that it does change a lot without me actually being able to tell you what happens.
Yeah. And is it a big game? Like, is it something that you sink hours and hours and hours into?
Depends. Like, I can go through just going straight to the boss fights and trying to avoid as much as possible, and that can take me like 5-6 hours maybe. And then now that I've finished it once, I can go to another playthrough and things will be kind of sped up a little bit. Like, I'll be able to go to things and know what to do, and so the playthroughs kind of get shorter, like, the more you do of them, but there's always new stuff to do in those playthroughs that make it, like, important to carry on playing and find out the other endings.
And just like the kind of, because like I said, it is black and white, and it doesn't, visually, I mean, it doesn't inspire me, even though kind of RPGs are right up my street. Does that kind of work? Does that, I don't know how to phrase the question, like, does that get better as you play along, or does it make sense? Does it kind of really add to the world?
Actually, it kind of does. That's actually a really good point. Like, when you start, the whole thing's kind of muted a bit. And I mean, I don't know if this was an intentional design decision, but I feel like because I went down the pacifist path, the game kind of got more colorful as I went on. Like, the areas turned into, like, these... It's so hard to avoid spoilers with this because I don't want to ruin it for everybody, but there's a boss in particular who's really colourful later on, and that's fun. It's so freaking hard to avoid the spoilers here.
But is it fun? Like, does it have really moments where it's, everything, because RPGs sometimes can fall into that, like, Final Fantasy VII trap, where it's like, everything's doom and gloom, and the world is ending, and we're all orphans, and
I have one
pain.
sentence for that. You can go into a dating sim with a skeleton.
Okay, so it does have a sense of humor about it then.
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant.
It's great. But I mean, I want to talk about this attention to detail. I want to get this across. Okay, so the Skeleton Brothers are called Sans and Papyrus. And those are the names of fonts, Comic Sans and Papyrus.
Yeah.
And when they talk to you, their dialogue is in that font. And, like, Comic Sans is a character, and in the game he's a comedian. He's a Comic Sans. And it's just, there's so much attention to detail and just little things that you're just like, oh yeah, that's clever. And like, but it's like that throughout the whole game. There's like, so you'll come across a dog in like a giant suit of armor, and it's like a really intense fight, and you're like, oh my gosh, how do I beat this? And then you go into the act menu, and it just says pet dog. And you're like, well, okay, I guess I'll try that. And you just pat it on the head, and then it just lets you go. It's like, yeah, you patted me. Thank you so much. That's all I wanted. Or if you were doing the genocide run, you could murder it brutally.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, there's so many different ways to do it, and there's so much detail to whatever you decide to do. It's so good. And the music, the soundtrack. Sorry, I'm just going to non-stop talk. The music, the soundtrack. People have been like editing the soundtrack, the songs, the battle music, and they've been able to like piece together them. Oh. And if they like slow down some of the songs or speed up some of them and like overlay them on top of other ones, they like sync together, like the melodies kind of turn into an extra song. Like, and so like there's the training dummy battle music, which is like the first enemy you fight, and then there's the frog battle music, which is like the second enemy you fight, and then if you put those two tracks together, it turns into one continuous song.
Oh wow.
And it's just really like, these are things you won't notice while playing the game.
Crazy.
They're just kind of be in the back of your mind, like, hey, this sounds kind of familiar. And then people have like pieced all this stuff together. Like the same with the characters. They've pieced together things that weren't directly mentioned, but they've been able to figure out afterwards, like relationships and who people like and stuff like that. And
wow.
It's really cool. So
like, is it a big dev team? Because that attention to detail must have taken ages to kind of put in there.
I mean, it's Toby Fox, I think is his name, is the main person that's created it. Like loads of other people were involved, sure, but it's like an indie game. It's pretty small.
Oh my god, that's insane. Then if like, you know, like you say, there's so many kind of Easter eggs and things to uncover. That's brilliant. Like that's something you don't really see that much in games anymore.
There's just so much to it. The UI. This is the main point of like the whole theme. Sorry, I can't stop. Like just
you keep going.
Wow. Okay. So the main theme of like my top 5 so far has been unique ways of telling stories. Like Her Story, Tales from the Borderlands, Rocket League.
Rocket League.
and this is like the only game I can think of where the UI, like your battle interface and all things like that, is actually part of the story, actually part of how you do things.
Oh, okay.
So like, how do I explain it? If you're fighting, it's kind of a top-down shooter. Like you pilot your little soul heart, and like enemies will fire projectiles at you, and you just got to move around and dodge them. But then there's an enemy you fight early on who can actually turn your heart like solid, and it like sinks to the ground. And then it becomes a platformer in the fight because you have to jump over the projectiles that are coming towards you and like play it differently. And I don't want to spoil any other fights, but it carries on like that, like, and gets more and more crazy in what you have to do in these boss fights. And it's all about the UI. There's literally, no, I can't say this one. That's too much of a spoiler. But there's one boss fight later on where like, you can't use something in your UI that you really wish you could use, basically. Like, he disables it, and it's so cool. Yeah. It's just so good. I don't know how to explain this. It's so much better to play the game to understand this. I can't get across just how cool it is when you're playing this, like, holy butts, that was ridiculous what they just did there. Suddenly I'm playing a Dance Revolution rhythm game out of nowhere. Suddenly I'm doing a platformer. Suddenly I'm back to top-down shooter. Like, it changes how you fight for each boss depending on who that boss and character is.
Oh my god, that sounds genuinely really innovative and unique and clever, like really clever. Oh my god, I really want to go play this now. I've gone from being like to like, yeah, I totally buy into what you're saying now, and I want to kind of just go and play it now. Oh wow, you've definitely sold it to me, Zoe. Yeah. Definitely.
Good.
Okay, so if we just do a quick recap. So your top 5 games of 2015 sort of is in at number 5, sort of Her Story.
Yeah, Her Story or Splatoon, whatever, just something good is there.
Okay, and in at number 4 is Fallout 4.
Yep.
In at number 3 is Tales from the Borderlands.
Yep.
2 is Rocket League, and number 1, I think without a shadow of a doubt, is Undertale.
Like, really, number 1 to number 5 should be Undertale, and the rest should be my top 10. Like, that's how good it is. That's how.
Okay, we'll just change the whole thing.
That's how much of a step up this game was to everything else I played this year. That's how much I felt from this game. The emotion in the ending, the emotion of these characters, the but not just like the story, also the actual game itself, the attention to detail, the love that has been poured into this that is so obvious and apparent to the person playing it.
Yeah.
Like, I've never felt so connected and involved in a game, and it was just mind-blowing. And it's not something I can really play again. Like next year, I've kind of done the Undertale experience now, but it's something that I'm definitely not going to forget for a while.
Yeah, something that's going to stick with you. That's amazing. Well, I'm definitely going to put that on my Christmas list to play now.
Good.
So thank you very much for joining me, Zoe, and we'll see you guys there next year.
Bye.
Farewell.